When we get to week 5, come back to this video that I recorded on May 15th. And remember that I told you week 5 has a really good chance of being an upset week in college football. What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. There are all the ingredients here. There is a theme to these week 5 games, and I'll get to that as we go through the top 10 games. It's not a week where you're going to have any marquee top 10 matchups. Maybe we might, depending on how the rankings go. But there are some good games, and again, there is potential for a ton of upsets. I'll even give you some outside of these 10 games when I get to the end. But let's start with the top 10 games, and we'll start with USC at Colorado. All right, so USC appears to be a top 10 team for sure. Colorado, we just don't know. We just have no idea how good this team is going to be. If they're a competitive team, and pretty good team, you never know. They're playing at home here. This is a potential upset type game, and that's the theme here. There are a bunch of games where underdogs are going to be at home in games where there could potentially be upsets. And again, I'll just go ahead, and before we get to the rest of the top 10, I'll go ahead and just give you some of the other games. So Michigan plays at Nebraska. Iowa State, no, that one's at Oklahoma. Clemson plays at Syracuse. Georgia plays at Auburn. Oregon plays at Stanford. Potential for upsets maybe in some of those games. Some other games that will be good games that didn't quite make the top 10. Michigan State, Iowa, Florida, Kentucky. Baylor, UCF could be a sneaky good game, and then Illinois and Purdue. All of those games could potentially be pretty big games. But again, we're talking about potential for upsets, and USC Colorado could possibly be one of those. Again, I have no idea how good Colorado is going to be, so I'm not going to sit here and say that this is going to be an upset, or that there's really even much of a chance of it being an upset. But you never know. The potential is there. It's just that we just don't know a lot about Colorado. Number 9, Mississippi State at Alabama, another game that fits the theme here. This is going to be a veteran Mississippi State team. Those cowbells they're loud, and it's a tough place to play. I know Alabama, Nick Saban has owned Mississippi State, but this is an Alabama team that's going to be young. Yes, they're going to have a lot more talent than Mississippi State, but I just think this could be one of those games that at least turns out to be close. Maybe it's not an upset, but I do think there's potential for this one to be close, and you never know. So I think this one definitely deserves to be on the top 10. How about Louisville at NC State? This is a Friday night game, and at first you'd say, well, NC State's going to be favored here, but I actually disagree with that. I think that Louisville is going to be a pretty good team this year. I think they're going to be better than NC State. I don't know if either one of these teams will be ranked at this point, but regardless, this is going to be a good game in the ACC. Both teams should be, these are both teams that I think are borderline top 25 teams. If neither team is ranked, I think they both have a chance to be not too far away from the top 25. So it's just one of those Friday night games in the ACC. Probably one of those games that'll be really good. And so we've got it at number 8. Number 7, Kansas at Texas. This will be an interesting game here. Texas playing at home. They're going to be favored by probably a lot. But I'm telling you, this Kansas team they're going to be good. They've got a ton of experience coming back. If Jalen Daniels, get him back, get him healthy, I really feel like this Kansas team has a chance to be a top 25 team this year. I think the first half of that season last year, if you look at Kansas and how good they were, I think this team has a chance to get back to that when you look at all the production they have coming back this year. Texas, obviously, with the talent, they're going to be really good. But I think this could be a good game. I think it could be a sneaky good game here at number 7. Number 6, another one where we're going to have a favorite in Washington going on the road to play Arizona. This is an Arizona team that I think is going to be sneaky good this year. This one has potential, I believe, for an upset. And I do think that even if it's not an upset, it will be a good game. It'll be a close game. We get to week 5 and the conference games starts. The conference games start ramping up. The pressure starts building. This is, we really get into the meat of the college football season once you get to week 5. And there's going to be, I believe, again, potentially several upsets this weekend. And the ingredients are there with some of these home teams being underdogs. And that's usually when you see the upset. So I think that's going to be a good one. Number 5, Texas A&M, Arkansas. This one, of course, will be on a neutral field. But I think this game's always good. I think it definitely deserves a spot here in the top 10. I expect it to be close. It's a big game. The loser of this game is probably going to be in trouble in the SEC West. Probably not going to have much of a shot. But the winner, if they can build off of that, build some momentum. Alabama and LSU still ahead. You never know. We could possibly see an upset down the road. And so I think especially Texas A&M, if they can win this game, if they can stay undefeated up to this point, they could really have a good season, I believe. So this is a huge one for both of these teams. Number 4, South Carolina at Tennessee. Revenge game for Tennessee. They're playing at home. There's more ingredients here for this one being a blowout. But you never know in these types of games. South Carolina is going to have a good offense. They should be able to score points. I expect a shootout in this game. Both teams, I think their strengths are going to be on the offensive side this year. So I do expect a good game. Maybe Tennessee does run away with it. Maybe they play like they did against Kentucky last year and come out really motivated. It's hard to say, but I think there's enough potential there for this one to possibly be a really good game with South Carolina, Tennessee, SEC East showdown at number 4. All right, Notre Dame and Duke. This one's going to fly under the radar for most people, but I've been saying this for a while now. This Duke team is going to be good. They're going to be a potential top 25 team this year, and they're playing at home. Notre Dame coming off of that Ohio State game. That'll be a tough one, of course. Now they go on the road to face Duke. I just really feel like there is potential for an upset here, and at least this one is going to be a good game. I expect a very close, competitive game. This is a really big one, and again, I think people are going to look at Duke and say, this will be an easy win for Notre Dame. I disagree. I think this will be a tough one for Notre Dame. In fact, I might even pick Duke. I don't know. This one, I really like this Duke team. I like the experience that they have. Notre Dame obviously going to have a talent advantage, but still, this is a big game, and I think it could be a top 25 matchup coming in at number 3. Moving on to number 2, another Friday night game. This is a huge one in the Pac-12. Utah on the road at Oregon State. This most likely will be a top 25 matchup, and again, it's got the same ingredients. Favored away team, Utah, going up against the underdog at home, Oregon State, and that's a tough place to play there. So I think this one definitely has the ingredients to be an upset. It'll be a tough one for Utah. I think it'll be a very close, hard-fought game. And those Friday night games, I love those Friday night games, those Thursday, Friday night games, because the attention really goes to that one game. You don't have to worry about 5 other games, which is something I always do. I don't know. We also have on that Friday, I've already talked about Louisville, NC State, also Cincinnati and BYU. So I don't know what the schedule will be. That's probably the best Thursday or Friday night slate of games that we'll have all year, with 3 Power 5 matchups there. Most likely we see Louisville, NC State play earlier, and then you'll see Utah, Oregon State probably play late. And then there's Cincinnati, BYU. I don't know when they'll play. That game I don't think is quite as big, but this will be a huge, huge game. Couple of big games there on that Friday night. But I think the biggest game is going to be LSU at Ole Miss. And again, you've got the same thing. LSU favored on the road against the underdog Ole Miss at home. This Ole Miss team is going to be good. They're going to be explosive on offense once again. I think they might even be improved on the defensive side as well. So I think there's definitely potential for an upset here. LSU is going to be really good as well. It's going to be a good one. I think Ole Miss probably is ranked. I think they'll probably be ranked in the top 15 at this point. So this is going to be a huge game. Potentially college game day going there. Just a big one in the SEC. So again, if I go through these games, all these games that have the same ingredients. Favored home teams on the road at underdogs. LSU, Ole Miss, Utah at Oregon State, Notre Dame at Duke, Washington at Arizona, Alabama at Mississippi State, USC at Colorado, Michigan at Nebraska, Clemson at Syracuse, Georgia at Auburn, Oregon at Stanford. There are just a bunch of these games this week. And again, I think we're going to look back at week 5 and say that this is potentially that upset weekend in college football. Which ones will happen, we'll see. I don't think many of them will happen, but I do think we could see 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 big-time upsets there in week 5. So those are my top 10 games for week 5. Give me your thoughts down in the comments below.